Hello students. In previous video we have covered all the concept of organisms and population. In this video we are going to learn the remaining part of the chapter through a kind of video. So let's take a look at the video.
When you look at this tree, you may think it is growing independently. However, the reality is that no living organism, including this tree, can grow in isolation. Every organism is surrounded by a host of abiotic and biotic components of the environment with which it continuously interacts. For example, this tree is influenced by a number of abiotic components such as temperature, water, light, soil, and wind, to name only a few. On the other hand, different biotic components such as pathogens, parasites, predators, and competitors of this tree also play an important role in its survival. Just like this tree, we too are constantly interacting with our environment. Did you know that the study of an organism and its environment is the traditional definition of ecology? Although various ecologists define it differently, ecology invariably studies the interactions among organisms and between the organism and its abiotic environment. It is studied at 4 levels of biological organization. Interestingly, the abiotic environment never remains constant all year round. All places on Earth experience different seasons due to the tilt in the Earth's axis and its revolution around the Sun. Owing to the varying intensity and duration of solar heat, you find variations in temperature and precipitation at different places on the Earth. Annual variations in temperature and precipitation are responsible for the formation of major biomes such as deserts, rainforests, and the tundra. If you carefully study biome distribution, you will notice that the mean annual temperature and precipitation is less in the tundra region. Compared to deserts, precipitation is better in grasslands, although temperatures may sometimes be a little higher. The rainforests experience good rainfall throughout the year, though temperatures in the tropical rainforests are relatively higher than those in coniferous and temperate forests due to their proximity to the equator. The climate in the rainforests is so amicable that they are inhabited by nearly 40 to 75% of the world's species. It is believed that many new species of flora and fauna are yet to be explored in these rainforests. In India too, we find major biomes such as deserts, tropical rainforests, deciduous forests, and coasts. Apart from climatic changes, each biome is also affected by local and regional variations, which have resulted in the formation of a wide range of habitats. Some of these habitats are favorable, while others are harsh. The Valley of Flowers in Uttaranchal and the hilly regions of North, Northeast, and South India are some favorable habitats found in India, while some harsh habitats include the scorching Rajasthan desert, perpetually rain-soaked Meghalayan forests, permafrost regions in the Himalayas, mountaintops, boiling thermal springs in Uttaranchal and Sikkim, and deep ocean trenches in the Indian Ocean. Life exists in all these habitats, regardless of whether they are favorable or harsh. The difference in chemical and physical conditions of these habitats is due to the variation in abiotic factors such as temperature, water, light, and soil. Apart from interacting with abiotic factors, the organisms also interact with the other living organisms in their habitats, such as pathogens, competitors, parasites, and predators. This is the reason why organisms differ from habitat to habitat. For example, the plants and animals in the Rajasthan desert are different from those in the Meghalayan rainforest. It is assumed that organisms have evolved or modified themselves over time through natural selection to survive and reproduce in their respective habitats. For instance, desert plants have developed special mechanisms such as spongy stems, which aid in storing water. The leaves, too, are reduced to tiny pointed spines, which decrease the loss of water due to transpiration. Likewise, the camel has adapted itself to survive without water for up to 10 days at a stretch. On the other hand, plants growing in rainforests have developed special mechanisms such as leaves with drip tips and thick, waxy surfaces which allow water to run off. Moreover, some climbers grow on tall plants to receive sunlight. In this way, every organism slowly adapts to the physico-chemical conditions of its habitat as well as its biotic components to survive and reproduce. If you observe your environment, you will notice several physical or abiotic factors such as temperature, water, light, and soil. These abiotic factors have a strong bearing on the life and existence of plant and animal species in different regions of the planet. Moreover, every organism adapts itself in various ways to these factors. Temperature is one of the most important abiotic factors that influence the life of organisms. On Earth, the average temperature on land varies seasonally. Moreover, as you move away from the equator towards the poles, temperature. Similarly, as you climb mountains, temperature decreases with an increase in altitude. On our planet, temperature ranges from sub-zero levels in the polar areas and high altitudes to more than 50 degrees centigrade in tropical deserts in summer. Interestingly, there are some unique habitats such as thermal springs and deep-sea hydrothermal vents where the average temperature exceeds 100 degrees centigrade. Did you know that temperature influences the kinetics of enzymes and through it, basal metabolism and other physiological functions and activities performed by an organism? A few organisms can tolerate and live in a wide range of temperatures, while a majority of them are restricted to a narrow range of temperatures. Organisms that can tolerate a wide range of temperatures are called euthermal, while organisms that can tolerate a narrow range of temperatures are called stenothermal. In fact, the levels of thermal tolerance of different species greatly influence their geographical distribution. For example, tropical plants such as banana and coconut cannot grow in temperate regions of the world. Similarly, pine and conifers, which are adapted to temperate regions, cannot grow in tropical regions or deserts. Likewise, in the animal kingdom, it is difficult for furry polar bears living in the polar ice caps to survive in warmer regions of the world. Similarly, camels are found only in arid regions of the world. Like temperature, water is another important abiotic factor that influences the life of organisms. In fact, life on Earth originated in water and is unable to sustain without it. However, water is not uniformly distributed across the planet. Dry places, such as deserts, have very little water reserves. Naturally, plants and animals have adapted themselves to optimally utilize water. By and large, water greatly influences the distribution of plants and their productivity on our planet. Apart from the availability of water, the quality of water is also important for organisms, particularly those living in aquatic habitats. Quality of water means the chemical composition, pH, as well as the salt concentration of water. The concentration of salt is measured as salinity in parts per thousand, or ppt, which has a significant influence on the life of aquatic organisms. Did you know that the concentration of salt in inland water is less than 5 ppt? In seawater, it is 30 to 35 ppt, while in hypersaline lagoons, it is more than 100 ppt. Some organisms tolerate a wide range of salinities, while others are restricted to a narrow range of salinities. Organisms that can tolerate a wide range of salinities are known as euryhaline, while organisms that can tolerate a narrow range of salinities are known as stenohaline. This also explains why many freshwater organisms cannot live in seawater for long, and vice versa, as they would face osmotic problems. Apart from temperature and water, light is another abiotic component of the environment that affects living organisms. Plants, for instance, require light for photosynthesis and growth. In forests, many small shrubs and herbs are overshadowed by tall canopied trees and therefore receive very little sunlight. Such plants are still able to survive as they are adapted to synthesize their food in low sunlight conditions. In fact, many plants depend on sunlight to meet their photoperiodic requirements for flowering. For instance, flowers of portulaca bloom after sunrise and close after sunset. Similarly, for many animals, sunlight is important for their existence. The diurnal and seasonal variations in light intensity and photoperiod signal them that it is time for their foraging, reproductive, and migratory activities. Have you wondered how organisms survive in the deep sea? Organisms that live in deep waters make use of a different spectrum of light. When sunlight falls on the surface of water, a small percent is reflected back into the atmosphere, while the remaining filters downward. Did you know that the longer light rays of the light entering the sea are absorbed near the surface of the water, while the shortest light rays penetrate deep down? Thus, photosynthesis in deeper waters occurs with blue and green rays, which are absorbed by the brown and red algae on the seabed. Interestingly, as the sun is the source of both light and temperature, the availability of light on land is closely linked with the temperature at any given place. Just as plants require light and water for their survival, they also require soil, another important abiotic component. On Earth, the nature and properties of soil varies in different places. The type of soil depends on the parent rock, climate, weathering process, how the soil is formed, and whether the soil is transported or sedimentary. Apart from these factors, various soil characteristics such as its composition, grain size, and soil aggregation determine its percolation and capacity to hold water. Characteristics such as pH and mineral composition of the soil and topography of the place greatly influence vegetation, which in turn determines the animals that can survive in that place. Similarly, in aquatic habitats, the sediment's characteristics determine the type of benthic animals that can survive there. Organisms living in this zone are called benthos, which include chitons, oysters, mussels, sponges, corals, and crabs. In this way, various organisms adapt themselves to different abiotic factors of the environment, which include temperature, water, light, and soil. Did you know that sweating in summer, shivering in winter, and seeing frogs in the rain and not in summer or winter are all responses to changing abiotic factors? Ever since organisms have come into existence on our planet, they have been evolving to survive better and reproduce in their habitats. However, the abiotic conditions of many habitats are never constant and keep changing significantly with time. These changes in abiotic conditions also affect the organisms living in that particular habitat. To sustain life, many species, through a process called homeostasis, try to maintain the constancy of their internal environment. Homeostasis is defined as a physiological process by which an organism regulates its internal environment in response to the fluctuating external environment. Although organisms achieve homeostasis through physiological means, it can also be achieved through artificial means, which is best seen in human beings. Consider that you can study well when the temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius. But in summer, the heat makes you lethargic and hence you are unable to concentrate. By simply using an air conditioner or a cooler, you can make your external environment pleasant so that you can perform better. Such artificial means do not exist for animals and plants in nature. So, how do they cope with such adverse situations? There are various ways by which organisms can respond to adverse external environments. They can regulate, conform, migrate, hibernate, estivate, or suspend themselves under such circumstances. Let's take a look at each situation. Organisms that are capable of maintaining homeostasis by physiological or behavioral means are called regulators. The mechanism by which organisms regulate their constant body temperature, irrespective of the external temperature, is called thermoregulation. Similarly, the mechanism by which organisms regulate a constant osmotic concentration, irrespective of the external osmotic concentration, is called osmoregulation. A few lower invertebrates and vertebrate species, along with birds and mammals, are capable of regulation. For instance, human beings are capable of regulating their body temperature and maintaining it at 37 degrees Celsius. For example, in summer, when the external temperature is more than our body temperature, we perspire a lot. This results in evaporative cooling, which lowers our body temperature. Likewise, in winter, when the external temperature is much lower than our body temperature, we shiver. Shivering generates heat and raises our body temperature. Such a mechanism is seen in mammals, but is absent in plants. Evolutionary biologists believe that the success of mammals is greatly due to their ability to maintain a constant body temperature, which enables them to survive in extreme climates. Some organisms that are unable to regulate their internal environment may partially regulate their internal environment or conform to external conditions. These organisms are known as conformers. Studies show that almost 99% of animals and nearly all plants belong to this category. The body temperature of such organisms changes according to the ambient temperature. Similarly, in the case of aquatic organisms, their osmotic concentration changes according to the ambient water osmotic concentration. Although maintaining a constant internal environment has advantages, conformers did not evolve into regulators. The reason is that processes like thermoregulation and osmoregulation consume a lot of energy, particularly in small animals, where heat loss or heat gain is a function of the surface area. Such animals have a larger surface area compared to their volume, and so they tend to lose their body heat very quickly when the outside temperature is low. Moreover, they consume a lot of energy to generate body heat, and this is why you rarely find small animals in the polar regions. Interestingly, during the course of evolution, the costs and benefits of maintaining a constant internal environment were taken into consideration, and thus some organisms have evolved to become regulators, while others have remained conformers. Sometimes, stressful external conditions may be localized or have a short duration. In such situations, organisms may migrate, hibernate, estivate, or suspend to survive.
Okay. External response to the stressful external environment. This part of this chapter we will learn in next video. For this video, this many points are important. Thank you so much.